How you doing, y'all? My name is Quentin Jefferson. I'm sitting down here with my brother, Michael Bennett. We're starting my new series called The Journeymen, and I'm blessed to have my brother come be my first guest. 11-year pro, Super Bowl champion, activist, artist, architect, writer, rapper, father, son, brother, and definitely been a mentor and a mentor to myself over the years. And I just want to appreciate you for taking the time.
Thank you, man. I'm happy to be on the show. I feel like it's dope to see you grow, not just through your professional career, but just like your design career and things that you're doing and making. I feel like people used to always get on you in the locker room and shit and be like, well, what Q wearing? But it's like you was on your Japan, your Danish, your UK shit, you know what I'm saying? And they wasn't on that. So I think that's really dope.
I
to see
appreciate
just about how everything is kind of changing for you and like, you know, the transition, playing, being a father, being a designer, just all the things that you're doing, I think is amazing.
I appreciate it, brother. That really means a lot. I definitely want to start this thing off with a question we ask everybody. What does a nomad mean to you when you hear that?
Damn, that's, by definition, I feel like nomad means you don't technically have a home, but I guess nomad to me could be that you could have a home, but you like to travel around the world to bring back your ideas to improve the way that you think. So I think nomadic, to me, is like traditionally looking at tribes, but I guess it's kind of just like being able to go around the world and not be rooted to just one way of thinking, but allowing yourself to grow through your travels.
No doubt, no doubt. And would you say, like, I know you're a traveling man and you've been around the world, would you say that, like, worldly experience has, like, attributed to your taste and almost elevated or gave you a different perspective on things?
Yeah, I think so. My brother always told me, like, I'd be like, oh, I want to have a uniform, but then my brother's always like, nah, I think you not having a uniform kind of expresses your travels and where you've been around the world. So I think that being traveling, I think has influenced the way I maybe would think about culture. I think style-wise, you start to pick up things that you like about the world. I think you put your own spin on that, but I think definitely travel influences you. I think you have a better understanding for humanity when you travel. I think you tend to become siloed in the way that you see the world, and you figure that you're the only one that has had that experience. But I think through my philanthropy work around the world and globally spending time with people, whether it's in, you know, here stateside, visiting kids in prison or, you know, doing work in different charities or visiting Native American reservations or being in Haiti or being in Africa, I kind of see that the core of what humanity actually wants is tied together through the globe. It's like people want fresh water, people want, you know, to have their kids safe, people want to have education, people want to have food and homes. So it's like, I think when you travel, you start to see that the world, as big as you think it is really a tiny string that's genetically shared through everybody, really.
No doubt, no doubt. So, like I said, I came to the league as, you know, 3 kids, had one my second year in the league. I was saying, how did you balance playing and being a father?
Oh, man, you know, there's no real balance in that. You know how hard it is? It's like, as a father, it's like you want to be able to be there in every moment, but then there's times where you have to buckle down because your job has so much stress on it and you have to be able to be detailed, you have to be able to be in it. So it's like hard balance, but I think what you need to do when you play is kind of like split the life up. It's like you got to structure yourself to be able to have time to be a father, be a husband, but it's hard to balance all those things because on top of being a football player, you got to stay healthy, you got to be a businessman, you got to be a philanthropist, you got to be an educator, you got to be on all these types of things. So one person ends up having many jobs, but the balance kind of that comes in is, I think the true balance is recognizing when there is not balance, and then trying to balance that out. It's like when you live oblivious to what the decisions are made, and you don't realize that you imbalanced. It's like when you can recognize that there's no balance, then you could try to attain that balance. But it's like if you continue to be oblivious to it, you continue to get so unbalanced when the time you pay attention to it, the scale's so tipped one way, no matter what you put on it, the weight can never even it out.
Yeah.
So I think it's about like being able to recognize when there needs to be balance. Like when there's times that you need to be really in tune to your wife, when there's times you need to be really in tune to your kid. Like I just remember the other day, my daughter came in, I was like on the phone and she was like, I love you, Daddy. And then I was like, yeah, and I realized what was happening.
Yeah.
I realized I needed to stop what I was doing and acknowledge that. So I stopped and got up and said, I see you. You know, because it's like sometimes you hear things, but you're not really like, you're not taking it in the way it should be taken in. And I think that balance is really about presence. Like how present can you be in those moments? Well, and that allows you to realize if you are present, you can see the imbalance and pay attention to those things.
No, that's key. I think even a callback. It might have been my first year or second year. I think I hit you and was like, yo, it was on Tuesday.
Right.
I was like, hey Mike, you trying to watch some film or something? And you hit me, you was like, bro. He said, don't you got a wife and kids? I was like, yeah. He said, bro, spend some time on your off day with your wife. I said, work it for work. And it really hit me like, yo, he do got a point, man. And I think from that point on, like every single Tuesday, I dedicated to like, yo, this is my one day off. I'm gonna spend that day off and be present for my wife. Literally still 9 years in, we go get breakfast on Tuesdays and spend the day together. Cause that's literally is the one day out of the whole season you can literally be present and give your wife, your kids all your time. Cause it is, like you said, like once you're in it, you're in it. Like I step foot in that facility, it's all ball.
Yeah.
You know, but when you get home, you gotta be dad. Cause they don't care about if you had a bad play, if you messed up. You know, they just want dad and your wife just wants your attention. And I said that always stuck with me and I still carry it to this day.
Well, that's why I was telling you that, because that's what I experienced, you know, like you realize like you get so consumed by it and you realize that you can get consumed by something that doesn't love you back. And I think sometimes when you get into the sport of football, you love it so much, but you realize it's taking more than it's giving back.
Yeah.
So it's like the people that you got to give to your job. I'm not saying don't give to your job, but I'm saying you also got to give to your family the same way you would give to your job. But the difference is that love is reciprocated and that starts to fill you back up. But it's like all that stuff you have to water, you know, it's all a garden, it's all a plant that you got to continue to recognize and water. That's why I was just telling you that, because it's like, I want you to watch film and I want you to be great, but I also want you to realize that if you get injured, like the game gonna continue.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you ain't really been tending to your wife and your kids, when the game is finished, you realize that you all alone, you know?
In fact, you lose everything.
Yeah.
Lose everything. Here to pivot a little bit. How long have you been into fashion and art, and how long has that been like, would you say it's always been a part of your life or something that you kind of evolved or moved into as you got older?
I think I've always been into like fashion in a sense. Like one of my grandpas, Hall Mack, he always had all his stuff starched. Like I always see him when I was go to Louisiana, he would have his hat, he would have his boots, he would have everything like dry cleaned. It would be like, it was like, man, this man's sharp as hell. You know what I'm saying? He dry clean. If you talk to somebody that he been dead for 20, 30 years, you talk to somebody about him, the first thing they'll say is like, oh, that man, he could dress. You know what I'm saying? So like, I feel like I've seen a lot of people in fashion growing up, you know, whether it was like my dad with the boots or like people wearing small things, or like, oh, there's Stacey Adams, even though, you know, Stacey Adams, like when you look back, it's like, Stacey Adams, but like, you know, like on Sunday we get dressed for church, like very specific things. When I worked in high school, I'd be like, I remember like having my money and being like, oh, I'm getting those Penny Hardaways, you know, just like those kind of things. So I've always been into like shoes or clothes or figuring out how I want to wear my clothes. Like, you know, Texas, we would have starched pants. I remember me and my brother standing up with the Stay Flow and like starching our pants, and like, you wasn't real until your pants can stand up on your own. You know, we'd be like, your pants, look, my pants standing up by themselves. Like they're clean without me, you know, like they could do their thing without me. So it's like, that was always like our thing. So we always been into fashion. So it's like, I think now it's kind of like, the older you get, you figure out who you are and what your style is, you know what I'm saying? It's like you just be you, and then you being you, that becomes the way that people see you. And I think for me, it's all about that, kind of staying true to that. It's like, you know, it's really hard when you're big, you know that already.
Yeah.
You know, that's why my brother started making his own clothes. I try to find brands. I stick to the brands that kind of fit me, kind of situation.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to find good brands. So it's like shopping around the globe and finding clothes that fit you, and finding out how your fashion is. It's like I'm not really into Air Force Ones. You know what I'm saying? Like I mostly wear black shoes, but it's like at the end of the day, it's like finding your style and doing that. But like to me, it's like I've always been like a Renaissance man. I like things that are cultural. When I look back at like style icons, it's like you look back at like Miles Davis, you know, all those people. Even Martin Luther King was stylish.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Like you start looking at like what is it? I think my style is like I feel like I want to be a gentleman. You know what I'm saying? Like I would have a cup of espresso in the morning, open my newspaper, check the watch. You know, look at my stocks, but fashionable style. You know, it's like I'm not really waking up to look at hype beast. So it's like that's kind of where I'm at in my thing. It's like I'm more looking at what it's like to be a gentleman, you know?
Yeah, and I think you spoke on it a little bit, but I was gonna say, I guess to reiterate, like who are your main style, like inspiration?
Oh man, like right now, I feel like I like to look at like old stuff too. Like I said, I like the way that Miles Davis was dressed before, you know, it was the drugs and stuff, but prior to that, you know what I'm saying? When he was hopping out the Ferrari, meeting Bill Evans and meeting with John Coltrane and all those people, like, you know, so I like that style. I like, you know, Curtis Mayfield used to be fresh too, like, you know, so it's like, who are you though? I think like, cause it's really hard cause I feel like I'm so big that I don't really look at other people. I kind of just put that on myself, really.
I'll say, like you said before, like a lot of like my real inspiration comes like from older folks. Like you look at old pictures like the Black Panther, like Huey P. or Fred Hampton, or like I said, Muhammad Ali, like you said, Miles Davis, Coltrane. And it was like their style was just, it was just timeless and just looked good. And like nowadays it's kind of weird. I don't know, cause I feel like, cause you know, so you go to Japan, you see like everybody's intentional and everybody like cares how they carry themselves. And I feel like, I don't know if it was cause of COVID, but I feel like now a lot of people don't put a lot of thought into their dress or really care. And I think back then it was, hey, you can show like your rebellious spirit through your clothes and really show like your personality. And it was kind of a way, you know, through the times, you know, like civil rights movement, whatever, like, you know, Black people were shitted on, oppressed, feel bad. And it was a way for us to find joy, you know.
I agree with you. It's about the upward mobility. It's like you wanted to distance yourself from the cotton fields and like you wanted to say like I'm an intellectual. So people put time into their dress. Like, you know, you look at like families back in the day, like people were sharp. Like the women had, it was about being ladies and gentlemen. Like it was about like presenting yourself like that. I'm not saying that there has to be the standard of way you dress it, but you're right, people did put more effort into how they're being seen. I always tell my kids, like, whether you like it or not, perception is happening.
It's happening, yeah.
You could be like, oh, I don't care how people perceive me, but people are perceiving you all the time. And I think for me, like even now, like my studio's downstairs in my house, but every day I get dressed up, you know what I'm saying? Me and my brother always talk about that. Like we get dressed every day, like not because somebody's looking at us, this is because that's just who we are. Like it helps us design better, it helps us think better. Like that's just how I think is how it should be, really, low key.
No doubt. Do you see style as, I guess, another form of art or self-expression?
I see style 100% as an expression. I think I see style as something that how you perceive yourself, the amount of time that you perceive yourself. Even if I don't agree with somebody's style, I might not like their style, but I respect it because they put time into it. You know what I'm saying? Like you could tell when somebody put time into their style. Like, you know what I'm saying? I could be looking at it and be like, I wouldn't wear that shit, but that shit is fresh on him.
Yeah.
And I think that's true. I think that style I think it is a form of art. It is a form of expression. It's how you feel, how you wear your hair, how you wear your rings. What are the things that you're collecting when you travel globally? It's like you could look at somebody and be like, oh, they look like a Pinterest board, or they look like, you know, the latest trend. Or you could see somebody that's like, oh man, I could see that they're a multitude of a lot of things. I think when you think about style, I think that's super important. I do think it's an art. I think it's an art. It's a dying art, really. It really is a dying art because you're constantly fighting against sweatpants. You're constantly fighting against those, what are those shoes? Those Yeezy slides or whatever. And like you fighting against that, like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, as a kid, like, you know, like you how you gonna tell them not to dress like that when everybody's dressing like that, you know?
No doubt, no doubt. And you played in the NFL for 11 years. Can you speak on, again, like, you know how it is playing, and you know, the way you wore your uniform and you wore your pads was very polarizing. And it definitely took an effect on me because I still wear my shoulder pads the same way. But can you speak on how like strict the NFL dress code is?
Oh my God.
And do you feel like the way the NFL like operates, do you feel like they kind of try to like suppress like your on-field like expression through like whether it's your cleats or how you wear your uniform?
I think they kind of been more lenient lately because I think before it was so much about the shield, but I think they realized that it can still be about the shield, but you can still connect to a younger generation. Like the older generation don't even care about cleats. They don't care. They're not looking at somebody's cleats. They're more looking at the stat. Is Tom Brady scoring? Is LaShawn? You know what I'm saying? But the younger generation is looking at fashion. Why I think the NFL itself is putting money into it. Now it has a fashion coordinator. Like every week you see they're taking pictures of people's fashion as they walk into the statement. I think the NFL is kind of realizing how fashion and sports kind of run together.
Yeah,
and I think,
correlate.
yeah, they're starting. And so I think like now, like you see guys with different cleats. So, you know, guys like OBJ before he was getting fined, but now it's just normal for a guy to have, you know, the Simpsons on his cleats and all these different things. But I think one thing about it, they still like Aqib Talib used to tell me, look, Mike, you want to be nice and neat. I think that used to be the most important thing. But I think for me, I was all about comfort. I didn't care. Like I was like, man, this anything I felt like was restricting me from being great, I'll cut it. Cut it. Like, well, it don't work, cut it. You know what I'm saying? The shoe don't work, cut it. Like it's just like at the end of the day, I wanted to be as free as possible to be able to, you know, play the way that I wanted to play. I think now the NFL is way more lenient. I think that's cool though. I think it's cool to see, even though I think some of that fashion stuff don't be good.
Tell us about the nomadic journeyman experience in the NFL.
Man, first of all, it's like if you start from the beginning, like I've always kind of had a nomadic life. My dad was in the military, so we moved a lot already. So naturally, that's like we always had to start over with new friends, had to start in a new place, adapt to new cities. So I felt like growing up until I actually went back into Louisiana and actually seen like where my family came from, that was kind of the root of what, when I got to Texas, it made it stronger because I kind of knew where I came from. Before, it was kind of like, we're moving in California, we're moving in Washington, we were just moving all over, wherever my dad was stationed at. And so then my dad moved us back to Louisiana and he moved to Houston to get ready for us coming to Texas, it's like, oh, I saw where my roots were. So I think a nomadic life has kind of been who I am from the beginning. So being in the NFL, it just became more polarizing because the amount of things that had to be moved. You know, I remember when I first came into the NFL and I was undrafted and I had just got an apartment. So I always give this information to a lot of young people. I'm like, do not get anything with a long lease until you're for sure you have a long contract and you can stay for a long time. But I remember I didn't take that advice my first year, and I got this apartment. I got an apartment. I got my first check. It was like $19K. I'm like, man, $19K. Woo. Boy, I was like, I could quit now. You know what I'm saying? That's what I was thinking. You know, I could quit right now. But then when I had got a place the first month, last month rent, I paid it all up, and then the next day I got cut. I went to the lady. I was like, can I get that money back? And she was like, no. Yeah. I was like, oh shit. And I think from that kind of made me realize, like, if I circle all the way back to that nomadic life, it made me realize the importance of finding a place that was my home, but I would journey around the world to do my work, but I would always come home. And so for me, that was Hawaii. So I got rooted in Hawaii. Even after every season, I would just go back to my place and be there. But during the season, I knew that the things could change because that was like a moment that I was like, whoa. You know, like when you get that moment where you stay with a team for a long time, like I stayed in Tampa for a long time, Then I stayed in Seattle for a long time. And then at the end I went to Philly, and then I went to New England, and I went to the Cowboys. It was like in that one season I went to 2 different teams.
Yeah.
I think that was kind of like picking up and dropping. And it was like I had my process, you know. It was like call my dad, he come up, help me get ready to move. I go to the team, then my dad help my wife get the stuff together. My wife would be getting stuff together. Then I'd be like, hey, Dad, can you get the car? You know what I'm saying? So because it's like when you move, you can't really be like, oh, tomorrow. You can't be like, oh, can we leave tomorrow? They be like, nah, we talking about tonight. Well, yeah, right now, like if they're on the phone with you at 12:40, they like, oh, we booked a ticket at 3 o'clock. So you got like 45 minutes to get to the airport. So you got to get what you need to get. You got to tell your wife, go, and you got to have family members that can help out. Like my sister-in-law will help out. My dad will help out. And my grandma will help out. Those like 3 people that I could depend on. My sister-in-law, Cena, my dad, and then my grandma, Ruby. Like those are 3 people that I would be like, we need some help. So they would always come up and help us move, because that was always like a challenging thing. It's like moving. It's like, so I think for me, I think a lot of fans don't see that part, the stress. I think, you know, my daughter, she was writing her college essay, and she wrote that as one of her things that was a challenge for her. I didn't realize it was a challenge for her, because for me, I thought it was not a challenge, but I think when she got to high school, she was like really specific on trying to be in one place at one time. Right. So as a father, I had to be like, all right, let's just be stationary, you know? So that's something that everybody can't really kind of get attached to, but the nomadic life is definitely a challenge, especially when you're on the bottom of the roster, or you're a free agent, or you 4th round and below. Like, you never know if you're gonna get cut or not, so you really can't really get attached to a city. Like, you go to a city, you don't really get to see it that much, you know, but when you get to that one place where you're there for a long time, you kind of get entrenched in that city.
You spoke about coming from Louisiana, your roots. You talked about your father, your wife, your kids. Do you think knowing your foundation, having a good foundation, do you think that helps you in the NFL?
I think so. I think having a foundation in any type of form is important. If you think about the structure of a building, like they start with the foundation on purpose, because if you put anything on a faulty foundation, then it's gonna crack. So I think you as an individual, you have to have a strong foundation to be successful in the NFL, right? Because it's like, there's so many bad things around you that you can easily get attached to, you know what I'm saying? And then like, if you don't have the right support system or the right people helping you, you could go down the wrong path. I've seen so many good people that are really good guys, but just went down the wrong path. Maybe it was like, they're just smoking too much weed or just doing too many things. And it's like, you could give them money to a bad habit. It makes a good person become bad in some ways, like, but you can always come back. But I think having the roots, I think for me, even to this day, like, whenever I am like at a boiling point of just like being overwhelmed or being challenged by the world, or just I can overdo it sometimes. Like, I could do too much, not in the sense of like I can give myself a little bit too much, because I am who I am. I feel at the core of it, I'm connected to humans in a way that I want to see the world become a better place. So sometimes I can overcommit myself to a place where I'm like, damn, I'm drained, because I'm just like, damn, I just jumped on a plane to so-and-so, then I told the people I was gonna be in whatchamacallit, and it's like, sometimes when I get to that place, sometimes I just be like, I just go to Louisiana, just because it's like, at the end of it, it's like, there may not be nothing there. Like, it may not have the Eiffel Tower, it may not have the Pacific Ocean, it may not have that, but what I see like the beginning of my essence of how I got there, and culture. So I look at it, I visit my grandpa, visit my grandma, I visit just people that, you know, that know me from the beginning, and it kind of puts me back into like, okay, you just Lil Mike, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, you know, you being Lil Mike is like, that's bigger than being Michael Bennett Jr., you know what I'm saying? There's like, I'm Michael Jr. after my dad, so it's like, I'm just Lil Mike to everybody here, so it's like, that puts me back into a place that puts me back into this nostalgia of being like, all right, you can keep going. Like, you got a lot of people that you represent, a lot of people that look up to you. Sometimes I go back home and I'm thinking people don't keep up with me, but people like, we saw you doing this, we see you doing that, and, you know, like, you make us so proud. Like, that energy keeps you going as a young person, because sometimes you feel like you know, you could do so much charity, but then you realize that my grandma always say that charity starts at home. So it's like you building that equity and you see that you really are representing them in a positive way. And so when I go back to Louisiana, I try to take my kids. It just kind of gives me like a foundation of like the beginning. Like Houston, like obviously being in Houston kind of stuff is cool, but it's not like the same as being in the country.
Yeah, what's that? So Mike, a lot of people know you from your professional life as an athlete, like you said before, 11-year pro. But who is Michael Bennett now? And want to tell the people where you're at and what you're transitioning into.
I think I've always kind of been the same person, really. I think time has allowed that person to evolve into a broader spectrum of collective ideas and expressing myself. I've always thought that football was an art. I never thought that it's more of the art of the body, you know what I'm saying? The way of connected to your body, the way of looking at it. I think transitioning is super hard because as an athlete, it's not so much about that you're an athlete. It's like everybody has the hard time transitioning when they put so much time into something. Like the word practice, like we use that word very loosely, like practice, but practice is the journey of conquering something. And you could be a janitor who's practicing every day. You could be a nurse practicing every day. And so all of a sudden you have this practice that you've been practicing and then it ends. And it's like, what do you do? Yeah. And I think what I realized is that what I was practicing can be continued. It doesn't stop there. I think attaching myself to the identity of a football player, I never really kind of did that. Honestly, with football, I just love football. Since I was a kid, I just love football. I just love the game of football. I love the contact of it. I love the players. I'm a historian of it. I love the players from the beginning, you know, Purple People Eaters, Deacon Jones, Reggie White, everybody. I just love football. My favorite team was Tampa Bay Buccaneers growing up. Me and my brother used to be outside playing football, Alvin Harper. Like, I just love football. Like, that's just my thing. So I think the love of the game was the hard part of transitioning, knowing that I wouldn't be playing it no more, but like that there was more to do. I felt like I was on the journey of conquering the body, but then I wanted the second act to be the idea of conquering the mind. And I think that becomes super hard for a lot of people, right? Because it's like you think that that's the end of who you are, but it's just the beginning of steps to thinking what you can be. I think it's really hard to do that. I think for me, I remember it very vividly. I was in the Cowboys. We were about to play our last game, and I just went up. I had to do it for my own self, right? Because it's like, I don't know if I'm really being honest. I was like, okay, I'm gonna retire. I told my wife I'm gonna retire. And I was sitting there, I got up. I remember I was like, I was trying to shake it. I was like, my hands was on the table, but my legs were trying to move. But I was trying to anchor myself down like, you don't wanna do this, Michael. You definitely don't wanna do this. You rethink it. You play a couple more years, you know, might be somewhere you wasn't expecting to be when you started. You know, and so I'm like sitting there and I was like, okay, let me just be honest. And I just got up. I remember I told the team, I was like, you know, this is my last game. And I was like, I could still play because I still had like 4 or 5 more years in me, really. Yeah. But I was just like, I think I just want to do something else for a little bit. I think I've kind of like put in the weight because I love football so much that I played through every single injury I ever had. Like, I never try to miss any time. Like, there's times I played with broken toes, broken shoulders, you know what I'm saying? Shoulders and dislocated shoulders. I got a shot in my toe every single week and know my foot was numb. Sometimes if the doctor did it wrong, I couldn't even feel my foot to the second quarter. You know what I'm saying? But I never complained about it. It's because I love my teammates very much, so I would put everything I could into every game. And it just came a point where I was like, do I want to give my family a broken man, or do I want to like be able to do the things that I need to do mentally and conquer that? So that transition was just being honest with myself and said, if I can stand up in front of this group of men that I respect and say this, then I know I'm gonna do it. So then I stood up and said it. It was interesting because my teammates were crying and I'm like, why? But I didn't realize that my impact on the field was bigger than just playing. I think people respected me for the man that I was or the man that I am. And I think that to me made me even realize more that like, okay, there's more of me to give to the world, because if people see what I represent and what I'm doing, and it's not just because I'm a good football player, it's because of the human that I'm constantly trying to be. So I think the transition is super hard, because you definitely have to dive oneself to be reborn into something else. And that's a challenge for all of us, really, because it's like every day you evolve, and every day you have to let your partner evolve. And it's like the moment you stop evolving is when you lose yourself. It's like, I think that's really difficult. I think being a football player or being an athlete, and sometimes being nomadic, can be shaky. Not in the sense of like, like lack of foundation, but shaky in the sense that things are moving very fast all the time. So you never still. And I think when you become still, you can see clearly. And then when you see clearly, you get an opportunity to truly judge, because it's like water. Water can ripple. You don't see the fish very well. It's like when the water's still, you can see how the fish move. I think for culturally and that for people is the same way. It's like sometimes you have to be still to recognize the growth that's there, and the growth that still needs to come.
No, that was amazing. Do you feel like you lost a part of your identity when football was over?
No, I don't think I lost a part of my identity, right? Because it's like, I don't feel that way, because I feel like I gave everything. Like every game, I gave everything I could possibly give, every play, like, and I don't feel like I lost myself in that, because even when I come back to Seattle, it's like, people respect me here because they saw that. You know what I'm saying? They saw that I could be injured and still be going as hard as I can. Even in Philly, like I played in Philly for 1 year, but I go to Philly, I get free food. You know what I'm saying? Because people saw the way that I was, with the way I was and how I played it. So I don't feel like I lost myself. I feel like I gave myself so much that people took a part of me that they keep. You know what I'm saying? Like they see that I gave a fuck. You know what I'm saying? Like it hurt me when we lost. I didn't just lose a game and be like, let me check my Twitter. Like it hurt. It was painful every loss. It was painful when I see Cam break his neck. It was painful when I saw Cliff break his neck. And I think a part of me, like, I got so attached to those guys that a part of me, it made it hard for me to play afterwards, because I didn't know if I could like give myself like that again. Because it's like, you don't want to get, it's like hard to like I played with a group of guys for a long period of time. You know what I'm saying? Bobby, KJ, Cliff, Earl, Sherm, me, Bang, all these guys I played with. Big Red, I played with Big Red since I was in college. You know what I'm saying? So it's like a part of you starts to wither away when you see the business of it, and it's like, damn, like, nah, you look at Cam, you're like, man, damn, Cam gave every single thing, every play. You see Earl, you see all these guys, and you're like, these guys were people that I looked up to just because of the way that they carried themselves. So I think, that's the hardest part. I think you losing your piece of, I wouldn't say losing your identity, but you lost a piece of like, your ability to maybe connect to other teams like that, So I think sometimes that becomes a challenge when you're changing teams, because you have seen what it feels like when people are really putting into the, like, I could see when I was in New England, like I went into a locker room and saw Julian Edelman, and I'm like, okay, this guy right here, like he loves this organization. This guy can barely stand up, but on Sunday he gonna be ready. And you see that enough on a team, you start to have respect for that team. And I feel like when I was certain places, I didn't see that from everybody. But like when I was in Seattle, I saw that every single play. Like I saw, like growing up, like playing with Rondé Barber, like what it took Rondé Barber to play. And that was my OG, you know what I'm saying? Like, so when I see Rondé, what I look at Rondé as the metric of a player, you know what I'm saying? Like somebody who would play through every single pain, no matter what they did, ask him to do, he would do it. And as a young player, you see that's gonna make you change how you see people. So like Rondé Barber was that for me when I was a rookie in Tampa. So that's the kind of man that I saw growing up. So it automatically pushed me towards that way of like, oh, that's what a warrior is right there.
And on that, who is Michael Bennett today in 2025?
I don't know. I feel like I'm still like the same Renaissance man. I think it's just more time to explore those things. I think most of the time, like through my obviously I went back to architecture school, went to design school. So it's like, I've always kind of thought about a lot of the work that I was doing before was more about like, it's still like humanity and working, but I realized at the end of the day that everything I was fighting against wasn't like an individual battle, it was a systematic battle. So it was like, people are designing the community to look a certain way, so you got to have people to combat that and redesign how we think about the place, like redesign the ghetto, rethink how sidewalks, how parks are, how architecture and design is really a part of everything that we're doing, whether we like it or not. It's either it's designed with empathy or it's designed to be hostile. And I think a lot of times we're dealing with hostile architecture, we're dealing with hostile environments. This is designed that way. It's like, how can we think about design in a different way or rethinking that? So that's what led me down the path of design. And so right now I'm focused on that a lot. I would say that I'm more designer than anything at the moment, right? It's like I'm constantly designing, I'm constantly making and writing and thinking about space and thinking about how, how one pivots, how one becomes really entrenched into the fundamentals of a space, the fundamentals, the fragments of a design, or like, how do you also empower others to see the world through that vision or through that clearly? So I think, whether it's with my Champions of Change and through my foundation, it's like I'm always looking for help to empower that kind of thinking, because that thinking is needed. I think we know what athletes are, we know what these thinkers, but when you go back into the history of slavery, just going back into slavery, a lot of people would say like, oh, they were looking at slavery from this perspective of like, these are just ordinary people that they were taking, but they weren't. Yeah. These were scientists, these were horticulture, agriculture, these were builders, these were welders, these were farmers, these were all kinds of people that were brought here to change the new world. And so it's like, a lot of us are descendants of that, but we kind of forgot that. You look at Booker T. Washington, you look at Frederick Douglass, you look at all the people that were thinking about the making and thinking of how we rethink. So I think rooted in that, I think design is very important to Black identity and Black culture. And I think sometimes we forget about that. It's like, if something is rusted and is gold, just because it rusted, does that make it not gold? It's like you can repolish that, restain it, remove it, and see that truly underneath that, that's a bar of gold. And I think deep down inside, like recognizing that the brain is the strongest thing that we have and focusing on that and having young kids learning and thinking about making and doing that just as much time as parents spend, cheering their kids on for a football game and the crowd that's there. It's like, you gotta be there for the other things. Like, can you be happy for your child for something scientific that they did, artistic that they did? Like people bring in the trophy and hold it, like, he got the first place 3-point contest. But like, I see my brother hold up his daughter's regular drawing, like she, like it's the championship of this. Like, so it's like consciously, what does that do to somebody subconsciously too, thinking the importance of that their brain has value. And I think sometimes in the NFL, it's like, can you be outside of just what your body represents, but can you be recognized for what your brain represents? And I think that's a disconnect sometimes. So for me, I'm really rooted in design, really. Long story short, I love design.
But I'm on the back end of my career and I'm still currently want to play, but you trying to figure out what's next. So my question to you is, you transitioning into art and architecture, was that something intentional or was that something that just happened?
No, I think it was like intentional in a lot of ways. I think I was like reading a lot of Booker T, reading a lot of different things. I think realizing that like everything is kind of like artifacts, like this idea about like what physically can I make something from the brain that becomes physical, that could be a representation or a language or a narrative that I'm constantly developing. I think the only way I was thinking was like architecture, design is something that could do that. I've always liked design. I've always kind of designed my own spaces, my house, looked at different things. I realized that even before I was designing systems, I was thinking about systems. I was thinking about making. I think when I went to architecture school, even though it was challenging, it was very much like, it was very much like really getting into the root of the language that was being spoken and being able to speak to other people to help them further ideas that I was doing, you know? So I think the transition was very normal because what I realized in the design world is like you have a very much privilege when you come from the sports world into the design world. You have a skill set that could be used in every type of the world if practiced again, you know what I'm saying? And you got to lead with humbleness, right? Because it's like you got to start over from the beginning, but you realize you have a skill set. You have this idea about discipline. You have this idea about practice, sacrifice, and collaboration. When you think about design, that's all what design is. When you think about team and sacrifice and getting things made, it's like it pushes towards that. So I think with design and architecture, it kind of just led me down the path of just making like artifacts, design and culture. It's like I went from writing the book into putting that writing into an object that people could read and have a better understanding of the discipline or understand the content on which I was, you know, researching and kind of putting together in a format that people could sit on or people could stand under or people could glance at, you know.
And I know you spoke on prior, just the amount of practice, the amount of focus and energy to even be a football player, 11-year pro, doing that at the highest level, Pro Bowler, All-Pro, Super Bowl. Is there a fear in that transition, especially knowing all the work it took to just be at the top of one profession and transitioning to the next one?
I think there's a fear for everybody in transitioning, right? Because it's like everybody's going to have that. Am I real? Am I a fraud? Can I have real ideas? Can I have real thoughts with what I was going to school for 20 years or practice for 20 years? And then you like, so everybody has that, right? It's like, so there's a fear of restarting, the fear that you spent so much time doing something and now you want to take all that time and it's just going into the trash. But I think it's not so much about having a fear, it's really kind of recognizing that you could take what you've had and do some research and figure out what you've done, how can that be reinterpreted into something else or forced or used to better yourself? I think that really becomes the challenge, is finding that thing. It's a thing for everybody. And I think that fear of failure, that fear of change, and that fear of ending something, that fear of wanting to be seen the same way you're being seen, it's like there has to be a nakedness around you, you know, a nakedness to shed all things but the thing that you want. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes you're so clothed and that becomes your shield, but you have to unshield yourself to really get to the depth of like what you're trying to be. And when I say nakedness, it's like people got to see you in the most honest way. It's like they need to see the process. They need to see that you don't need to hide behind that anymore because like you said, Instagram, all this stuff, it's like people are seeing a finished product all the time. So when a person fails, they haven't had a chance to connect to their process. So they're looking and laughing at their failure. But it's like when you go through the steps of learning about somebody's process, you root for them. You're like, man, I know you failed, but keep going. It's like in the game, you know, it's like, man, if you use this, you do this a little bit better. So it's like, I guess it's like there is a fear of transition because you're starting over. But I think the best thing is in that transition to be humble. And I think humbleness, you know, is scary because it's honesty, it's nakedness, and you have to be able to collaborate. So I think it's the fear of change is constant for everybody.
So, like I said, you know how that feeling when you sack the quarterback, the joy, the energy you get from that. You say you hoisted the trophy, the joy, the energy you feel from that. Do you feel the same fulfillment or joy creating a chair or creating a space? Do you feel fulfilled in that same way?
I think I feel more fulfilled in a way because I realize that a lot of times in a stadium, is it really joy or is it just so much energy that realize to make you think that shit, I should be happy too, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like, you know, you're standing in front of Lumen Field and like everybody is cheering for something violent you just did. So you like, yeah. But the thing I think about, there's a sophistication around making something and not having to have people cheer for you, but just being happy that it came to life, that you put the time into it, the process of making a chair, the process of making a building, because all these things take time. It's like making a simple chair could be a year process, you know, from ideation to drawing to getting it to scoped out to being made. So I think it's about the difference in the joy is that you don't need the joy of others to make yourself feel better. The difference is that you're happier that you did it and that you went through the process. So it's like a self-gratification in a way that makes you feel like fulfilled. Like it's like you don't need others to feel happy.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of us feel is that like we got so used to others celebrating us for our happiness that we can't really be happy again, because you can never, your wife be your wife cheering for you versus 90,000. It's like, you're like, wait, that's just it, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, if everybody isn't cheering for you that way, does that make it not good?
Right.
It's like, it needs to be good because you think it's good. And it's like, yeah, you want things to be seen and you want things to be done at a certain level, but like, you making this podcast, is it about, you know, beating everybody, or are you helping people through what people experience? And if everybody's challenging and everybody's changing one person at a time, then you actually are doing something. So I think that's really it. It's like, I do feel more fulfilled at moments where, you know, we're making something and it comes to life. But it's also hard because the thing I loved about football was the collaboration of it. I love being on the field with other people and making something come to life, but realizing that I'm doing the same thing in design. Yeah. It's like you work with an engineer, you work with a lot of different people to bring one object to life. So there is a gratification that's similar in a lot of ways.
That's good. That's good. So I know we were speaking a little earlier off camera. You know, I'm heavy into fashion, you heavy into fashion. I know some brands that I mess with right now is Siage. I got on Universal Works right now, Evan Kenori. A lot of brands that kind of gear their clothes towards big men. As a big fly guy yourself, are there some brands that resonate with you?
I think of the brand I like Margiela. Like for me, I've always liked Margiela as like something that I wear a lot. I think it's big. It has like that component. It's versatile. I like Issy too. Like, you know, I'm wearing that. I like my friend Drew Curry. He has a brand. I always, is it, hold on one second. Is it Iray? Yeah. So I like Margiela because it's like, it's something that it has like this form to it that's universal, and it has like this playfulness about it where it's exaggerated in moments. So it's like, it has jeans, but it's like, it has that little flash point, but it's not too much. You know, sometimes other brands, I like Issy because it's very flowy, it's simple, the fabric. I love brands with fabrics and stuff. My friend Drew Curry, he has a brand called Iray. I like Iray because it has like a little points to it that makes it look dope, but it's like, so I like brands that have that little itch to it, but it still has like that elegance to it, because sometimes it can get kind of crazy with
too much.
when it comes to fashion. I mean, even Margiela sometimes it's too much. It's like, okay, Margiela, like that went too far, but this piece right here, I fuck with it. But it's like, you know, it's like I like brands like that. I think Acne, I've always liked Acne, but I kind of got off Acne a little bit. They kind of went the wrong way for me. But
I was gonna say, what would you say is like a staple piece to you? Like, you see this piece, like, this is Michael Bennett.
I think a beanie, like people always see me with beanies. So it's like, I love beanies. Like I always have beanies on. Like my favorite beanie right now is definitely the Pharrell collection with Louis Vuitton. I think, you know, it's just something about it. It's scale. I used to wear Acne beanies the most because they had the biggest ones, but then lately they shrank them down so they can't really fit on my dreads anymore. So it's like, that's kind of been the brand that I like. It's like, those are kind of like the pieces that I like. But I think when I think about uniform and like pieces that are doing it, yeah, those are kind of the companies that I like most. I rock Bodie sometimes, like in summer times and stuff like that. But like, there's like a lot of other brands that I like, just like t-shirts or kind of like, I'm really into like the fabrics, really kind of how things kind of feel and how they wash and how you can reuse them. So I think that's something about fashion. Like you get older, it's kind of like, yeah, you could buy something that's super expensive, but how does it wash? You know, like how do you take care of it? You know, like when I even like shoes, it's like I don't have many shoes. It's like I got, you know, 5 pair of custom Prada shoes. You know what I'm saying? They are custom. Not everybody can get custom Prada shoes, but I have a array of the same shoe from Prada. But it's like that's kind of like the normal shoe that I wear, and then like these right now is like I like Sacai just because they kind of do the uniform kind of things, and then they had a pair of Nikes come out. I was like, I gotta get them. So there was like, you know, very few brands like Sacai though. They always do dope shit. So it's like, you know, I feel like speaking about fashion, my question to you is like, when you think about fashion, what part of the world actually has the best fashion to you? No. I know what you're gonna say already, but I'm just gonna like. You know.
The crazy, I think you think you know what I'm gonna say, but I'm gonna flip it. You know, you go around the world. You've traveled the world a lot. Just recently went to Japan. I know you probably think I was gonna say Japan.
No, we didn't.
But to bring it back, I'll say the States.
Ooh.
I mean, I think African Americans in the States, we make everything cool.
Yeah.
No matter where you go in the world, you see our influence. And I'm in Japan. I see brothers over there with dreads. I go to the bake store, they sagging, and to them it's cool. But I'm like, for us, it was just something like, oh, I see him with the shoestring as the belt. I know for us in America, like we would do it because we legitimately had no belt. Your shorts might fit big because it might be some hand-me-downs for your cousin. It was one of them, it is what it is, but we found a way to make it cool. And I feel like you see African Americans influence all over the world. Like when we stamp it, even through culture or hip hop, once we stamp it, it's cool, you know. So I'll say, man, America, man, we.
So it's like oxtails. It's like you really think about what you're really eating.
Yeah.
But it's good now because we done flipped it. It's like you got to find ways to flip it. I think that's truly what kind of fashion is too. It's like so many people get stagnant and trying to be a certain way. What's cool, but it's like you said, it's like those trends became those things that were. Really looked down upon or really styled now. That's kind of crazy to me.
I seen Margiela. They had the
not the boxer
with the boxer. But you know what I'm saying? But
I didn't buy those though. Just to be clear, I did not buy those. That's not my Margiela right there.
But it is crazy. Again, you just see like our influence, and it's really like whether people want to admit it or not. You gotta admit like African Americans, our culture, we have so much influence over the world, and it's one of those like. Again, I think we try to move away from it, but if you really, I feel like, man, we should embrace it. Like,
we should embrace it.
Like we created something, we created culture when everything was stripped from us, and you gotta love that and respect that.
Yeah, I respect that. I'm Michael Bennett. I'm a nomad, and this is Journeyman.